The krill warship descended upon the forest moon of Talvish 9 like a hammer of God. Its plasma cannons carved furrows through ancient trees, turning the emerald canopy into ash and memory. Erin Solis barely had time to activate her distress beacon before the impact threw her from her scout vessel. She hit the ground hard, armor cracked, biometrics screaming warnings across her failing HUD. The taste of copper filled her mouth. Above, the skeletal remains of her ship hung suspended in the branches, burning with chemical fire that painted the twilight in shades of amber and orange. Erin tried to stand. Her legs wouldn't respond. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. She looked down and saw the obsidian shaft protruding from her chest, just left of center. A krill hunting arrow, barbed and cruel, designed to make removal fatal. Well, she whispered to the uncaring forest. That's unfortunate. The human body was remarkable, her training reminded her. It could survive minutes with a compromised heart, longer if the wound sealed itself partially, if the victim remained calm. She had perhaps 10 minutes before blood loss or cardiac arrest claimed her. 10 minutes on an alien moon, alone, with enemy forces certainly sweeping the area. She laughed, a wet, bubbling sound. Humanity had clawed its way from old Earth, survived the collapse, the gene wars, the long dark. They'd earned their reputation as the galaxy's cockroaches survivors. Adapters, the species that simply refused to die. And yet here she was, done in by a primitive arrow. The sound of breaking undergrowth made her reach for her sidearm. Her hand moved sluggishly, fighting against failing nerve connections. 3 shapes emerged from the smoke-low quadrupedal, covered in mottled fur that shifted colors with their surroundings. Talveshi fauna. Cubs, if her xenobiology briefing was accurate. Each no larger than a terrier, with oversized paws they'd grow into and eyes that held far too much intelligence. The lead cub darker than the others, with a distinctive white marking across its snout approached cautiously. It made a sound halfway between a chirp and a growl. The translator in her helmet was damaged, offering only fragments. Fire walker broken? Pack? Not pack Aaron managed. Human, alone. The cub cocked its head. It stepped closer, and Aaron could see its fur was singed on one side. The other 2 cubs hung back, watchful. The dark one reached her and did something unexpected. It pressed its small body against her uninjured side and began to keen. A high-pitched sound that made her teeth ache. A distress call. The cub was calling for help. Won't work, Aaron whispered. Your pack won't come. The fires ... As if in answer, a massive explosion rocked the forest. Her ship's reactor had finally detonated. The shockwave flattened trees, sent flaming debris cascading like deadly rain. The wall of fire that followed consumed everything in its path, racing toward her position with the hunger of an ancient god. The cubs scattered 2 of them. The dark one remained pressed against her, trembling but immovable. Stupid, Aaron told it. You'll die. The cub she decided to call it Varric. After the moon's northern continent looked up at her with those 2 intelligent eyes and made another sound. This time, her translator caught it clearly. Pack stays. Something in Aaron's chest tightened, and it wasn't the arrow. Humans had spread across the stars carrying many things: technology, art, war. But perhaps the most dangerous thing they'd brought was this: the ability to recognize family in the most unlikely places. Then we run, she decided. Using her one functional arm and whatever combat drugs remained in her suit's medical system, Erin began to crawl. Each movement was agony. The arrow shifted with every inch, grinding against bone, but she bit down on her screams and moved. Varric stayed at her side, occasionally gripping her armor in small jaws and pulling, adding its negligible strength to hers. The fire roared closer. Aaron could feel its heat through her armor, could hear the screaming of trees as they died. Her vision grayed at the edges. The drugs were wearing off. She'd lost too much blood. They reached a creek barely more than a trickle through a rocky depression, but it was something. Erin dragged herself into the water, felt it cool against her overheating skin. Varric splashed in beside her, then did something remarkable. The cub began to dig, small paws working furiously at the muddy bank, creating a hollow beneath an overhanging rock. Smart, Erin breathed. Very smart. She pulled herself into the hollow, Varric pressing tight against her. The fire came, a living thing of heat and rage, passing over them like the breath of dragons. The water around them steamed. The rock above them groaned and cracked from thermal stress. Erin wrapped her arm around the small body beside her and prayed to gods she'd never believed in. The fire passed. In the ringing silence that followed, Erin became aware of two things. She was still alive, and Varek was licking her face with a tongue like sandpaper. She tried to laugh but could only wheeze. Her suit's medical system had finally shut down entirely. Without its support, she had minutes at best. But the distress beacon was still transmitting. If anyone had survived, if the fleet was searching ... A familiar sound cut through the smoke-choked air. Shuttle engines. Human shuttle engines. Varek heard it too. The cub climbed onto Erin's chest, carefully avoiding the arrow, and began to keen again, loud and persistent. A beacon of sound to match her beacon of radio waves. The shuttle materialized through the smoke, sleek and beautiful and impossibly welcome. It settled beside the creek and armored figures emerged, her squad, her family. Lieutenant Chun reached her first, his dark face paling when he saw the arrow. "Medic, now!" "The cub," Erin managed. "Varek saved me." Chun looked at the small creature still pressed against her, still keening. Understanding crossed his face. "Then Varek comes with us." As they loaded her onto a stretcher. As the medics began their desperate work, Erin kept one hand on the cub's fur. Varek had gone quiet now, but stayed close, watching the humans with those intelligent eyes. In the shuttle's medical bay, as the surgeon carefully extracted the arrow and nanosutures knit her damaged heart, Erin learned what had happened. The krill attack had been repelled. The fleet had won. And this small moon, with its burning forests and brave cubs, had become the unlikely site of humanity's latest victory. But Erin knew the truth. The victory wasn't hers. It belonged to a small creature who had recognized something essential. That pact, that family transcended species, size, and reason. Varek never left her side during the recovery. And when Erin finally returned to active duty, she did so with a new role. Humanity's first Talveshi liaison. Varek, now grown into a magnificent specimen with that distinctive white marking, served as her partner and translator. They said humans were the galaxy's survivors, the species that refused to quit, but Erin knew better. Humanity's real strength wasn't that they survived, it was that they never survived alone.